You are listening to The Art of Sales. Everyone sells every day, and this is your source for conversational, real-world sales and prospecting methods that you are comfortable using and that get results. You'll help people buy instead of pushing them into being sold. Here's your host, Art Subcheck.
Let's talk about fear. Fear is a motivator. It causes people to take action. And in other cases, it scares people into avoiding other actions. And I'm not talking about the Halloween, haunted house, or zombie movie kind of fear. I'm talking about the real life kind. Yeah, fear sells. And don't believe the new age fluff gurus preaching the touchy-feely notion that using pain and fear is an outdated way to sell. That's bull. You probably took multiple actions already today out of fear of some type, whether it be small or large. Myself, this morning by 8 a.m., I brushed my teeth, went to the gym, had a protein shake, did not go through a yellow light. I ran an update on one of our sites and called a pest control company. All of those actions can be associated with some type of fear. Now, your prospects and customers are no different. The key to success in selling is in understanding fear and knowing how to use it properly in a non-salesy or cheesy way. In an article on using fear in selling, Russ Hinberry of Digital Marketer cites research showing there are two considerations controlling how threatened people feel. So stay with me on this. I'll try not to get too much into the weeds. But first, you have perceived vulnerability. And that means how likely is this to hurt me? And then number two, you have perceived severity, which means how bad will this hurt? Now, as salespeople, we need to take into account a third element that's called efficacy, which is what will actually cause someone to take action in order to avoid a threat. Now, that element is the person's perception as to whether or not they can do anything about the threat. Now, if they feel they have no control, they're going to do nothing. If action seems realistic and is perceived to be able to minimize or eliminate the threat, and the value is perceived higher than the cost, then they will take some action. All right, so how do we use all of this in a real life sales situation? Okay, so instead of telling people that they are vulnerable, that they'll get hurt and need to take some action, instead, let's ask questions to help them reach those conclusions. And that's where the professional salesmanship comes into play. So I'm going to take each of these three areas and talk about how you can use them. So let's take the perceived vulnerability. It's a big word for me. Formulate questions that prompt people to think about what they don't want or what they already might be experiencing that they'd rather not. So, for example, what are you experiencing regarding service outages? Or tell me about your disaster recovery plan. What compliance measures do you have in place in case of an audit? Or how are you handling employee theft right now? Now, number two, the perceived severity. So once you find the pain where it hurts, help them understand their pain level and the severity and or the possible implications. And get them to attach numbers wherever possible. So they're going to need to see the threat or the actual existing problem as being large enough or urgent enough to take some action on. So questions here would be, how often does that happen? What does that cost? How much time is that taking? What would that mean in terms of lost business? What are the long-term effects if that is not stopped? And now, number three, let's look at efficacy. So here you will help them visualize an action, which will be your solution, your product or service. So you want to help them visualize that action, and we want to help them see that it has greater value than the investment. So for example, what ideally would you like to see happen? How would you plan on implementing this process? Or could you see your team buying into this new methodology? Is this something that you feel could prevent the problem from occurring again? So, here's what I suggest for you. Take each of these categories. Again, number 1, perceived vulnerability. Number 2, perceived severity. Number 3, efficacy. Take each of these categories and create your own questions. You can take mine or obviously take your own and adapt them. And then what you want to do is anticipate the likely possible answers. Then you want to come up with more follow-up questions. So you'll be using fear not to simply scare your prospects or customers, but of course to help them. And that is what professional sales is all about. All right, so you know what time it is.
Your attitude will be in every way, you'll never feel what they say. It's the art of the sales quote of the day.
That's right. Time for the quote of the day. Today's quote is from Max Brooks, who is the author of World War Z. And Max says, "Fear is the most basic emotion we have. Fear is primal. Fear sells." All right. So let's not talk about fear right now. Let's talk about helping someone. And would you do me a favor and also a couple friends? Tell them about this show. Send them to our show site, which is The Art of Sales, theartofsales.com. theartofsales.com. Also, if you don't yet have my free book, How to Place the Successful Sales and Prospecting Call, I want to mail that to you. That is an actual book I want to send to you in the mail. Just help with the minor shipping expense. You can do that at freesalesbook.com, freesalesbook.com, and we will mail that to you in the U.S., and we also have an option for our international friends. Thank you so much for investing your time with me. Go out and make it your best sales day ever. I'm Art Subcheck.